when asked who they want to win the season, Rubina did not say her boyfriend Tucker. She chose Izzy and Paige, which I understand because most of us are probably rooting for Izzy and Paige. But Rubina not choosing her boyfriend is weird. Hello everybody, here again to talk about The Amazing Race after last night's episode 6 of the season. Overall, not my favorite episode. Definitely felt it was one of the more boring ones of the season after coming off of 2 weeks of pretty entertaining episodes. But I'll save my dragging of the show overall for the end of this video. Per usual, I want to go over all the teams in order of what they placed and give my thoughts. And we are going to start with Tucker and Eric, who started in first place and end in first place. In fact, I think they've been first place 3 weeks in a row now, so they are starting to become the team to beat, I would say. One thing I definitely wanted to comment on, and I talked about this last week, that if Tucker didn't feel some kind of way about Joseph and Adam giving the U-turn to Rubina, then I could kind of understand why Tucker and Rubina ended up breaking up soon after recording this. And that's exactly what happened. Tucker did not seem to care that Joseph may have given the U-turn to Rubina. And I'm not saying that Tucker necessarily should just be looking for revenge, but I would have liked to hear something about, like, if they got a chance to U-turn someone else, they were gonna U-turn Joseph for doing that. Maybe it's because they're in first place and they don't have a whole lot of other things to worry about. But yeah, Tucker did not strike me as a good boyfriend here. And then we're going to get to Rubina at the end here to talk about her comment. So, yeah. Overall, though, like, they killed it again. They, of course, chose the physical competition, which was to fill up the salt bags and then make sure the bags are sealed right. They did that very well. Eric even did pretty damn good in the trivia thing when they had to run around and look for the shields and all the answers and then go back and answer 3 questions. It was more like a memory game, really. He didn't do it the first time, but Eric did it the second time. And they finished first so quickly that they seem way ahead of Rubina and her sister, Izzy and Paige, and even Chelsea and Jack. They seem way ahead of the teams at the bottom. So unless there's another day where the game kind of resets like last week's episode, then they're way ahead of the people at the bottom. In second place is probably Tucker and Eric's biggest competition is Jag and Jess. These are the 2 teams that likely win this season. I can't see anyone catching up to these 2 teams, especially with the way this show does its challenges. I don't know why anyone would go on The Amazing Race as a girl team. You know, I don't watch enough of it. Maybe some past girl teams have dominated, but the past few weeks they've been dropping like flies because the challenges definitely favor the guy teams. The guy teams can finish the physical competitions way better than the girl teams. And then, like last week, I didn't feel the competitions were fair. I felt like the physical challenge was way easier. This week, it seemed a little more fair with the whole you gotta go, like, row your boat in the water and find the buoy of oysters. But, I still stand by what I say, that the show and their challenges aren't exactly even for guy teams and girl teams. Jag and Jazz did all this talking about how they're so good at driving because they drive semi-trucks for a living, and they couldn't figure out how to reverse the car in wherever they were, Croatia. But it did seem they had to do something special to reverse, so they probably should have asked someone like, I believe, Natalie and her sister did at some point. So yeah, they were struggling on the drive. Plus it was raining a lot by the time they had to do the salt bags. But none of that really deterred them. They did have to go back and redo one of the salt bags. And then, unlike Taylor, which we'll get to when it came to the trivia, Jas was smart enough to realize that the questions could change, because both he and Taylor had the idea, well, let's just go ask the question so we can see what questions we have to answer and look for those answers because there was different answers to different questions. But he was smart enough to then ask again and realize, oh, the questions change. Taylor, who we're about to get to, she has not been showing that winning spirit as a past Big Brother winner this season. But kudos to Jazz for figuring that out, and then they finished second. And like I said, definitely I think it's coming down to them versus Eric and Tucker. Now, Taylor and Kylan did get third place, and they are probably the dark horse that could very well win. But they're still like a distant third to me. There's also a fourth team I could see winning too, but we'll get to them. By the time they were getting there, the rain was getting even worse. They decided to do the buoys, though, to not do the physical challenge, to row the boat. But Kylan definitely seemed to struggle with rowing the boat because he wanted to do it all himself, when the other team that did it seemed to get it down better by both of them rowing the boat. So I don't really know why Kylan had that idea, but not the best, because I do feel like that kept them in third place. And then Taylor didn't help. She was the one that in trivia had the idea that Jazz had to ask the questions to see what questions she had to actually answer. Didn't realize that the questions changed, though. So she came back thinking she had the answers, and then was, of course, totally frustrated when she realizes that the questions change. But they still end up in third place. But they started in second place, so they fall one behind, and they are just going up against two teams that are going to be hard to beat. In fourth place was Stephanie and Natalie. They were the ones that actually asked how to reverse the car, which was smart of them. They're the other team that also chose oysters and decided to row the boat. Both of them row the boat, not just one person, which I also think was smart. They are the fourth team that I can see winning if Stephanie, leads the team and not Natalie. I really liked Stephanie in this episode, but Natalie was too much. Maybe this is the curmudgeon in me, but Natalie's overdoing it with the joy of being in Croatia was really irking me. Actually, you know what? It's not the curmudgeon in me. It's not the joy of Natalie that pisses me off. It's the baby voices at 35 years old. The baby voices the entire time is sickening. Hate them. And then when they got the oysters to the woman and Natalie hugged the girl all excitedly, I don't think the girl was into that hug. She looked a little irritated after Natalie and Stephanie were walking away after that hug. That girl should have been on the Survivor episode, which I'll talk about later. But yeah, Stephanie was the highlight of the episode. I liked when, at first she and Adam were working together to figure out the trivia together. But then Stephanie got frustrated that that Joseph and Adam wanted them to come back to them so they could all go to the end together for this round. And Stephanie was right in that, we're getting down to the middle of the season. At one point, do we stop with this big alliance thing? Because only one team can win the actual race. This is a race. Why are they supposed to go back to Joseph and Adam instead of Joseph and Adam coming to them to go together to the thing? So yeah, that didn't make sense because they got to the place first. They were ahead of Joseph and Adam, and I get Stephanie's frustration with Natalie to want to just stay behind and get to the next finish line together. But at some point, when do we try and win the game? So I think the wrong sister has been on reality television this whole time. Natalie and her baby voices, I would love to never see her again on TV after this. But Stephanie would work for me on another show. I like Stephanie. In fifth place was Joseph and Adam. I don't have a lot to say about them in this episode. They weren't exactly a standout team. They've had some troubles along the way. I feel like of all the teams in the train wreck alliance, they need the alliance the most because they get lost when it comes to finding places. We've seen that in many episodes this season. I think Adam needed the help from Stephanie in this trivia competition. So they actually probably do need the alliance. So I understand why they are in the alliance, because they are the worst team in the alliance. But also, being the worst team in the alliance probably means you're not going to beat the other teams in the race. So, when do you focus on winning? My question once again. In sixth place was Chelsea and Jack, and they seem to be neck and neck with Izzy and Paige throughout this whole episode, even though they started in front of them. But they're the other team that always gets lost when it comes to driving, especially Jack. He does not have a good sense of direction in Europe, in these countries. So that put them behind and kept them with Izzy and Paige. They also messed up during the salt challenge when they had to fill the salt bags. They had to go back and redo 2. Jack then didn't want to help Izzy in the trivia. Izzy asked if they wanted to help each other because there is a team behind them. Jack didn't want to. Didn't really help him though, because Izzy finished the trivia before Jack did. But then Izzy and Paige got lost getting to the final checkpoint of this round. So Chelsea and Jack end up in 6th. Izzy and Paige end up in 7th. Izzy was hoping to run into Jag. We didn't get to see that confrontation because I think they're just so far behind the top few teams. So I don't know if we're going to actually get that Izzy and Jag confrontation. I'm hoping so, because it will make for, entertaining TV, I'm hoping. Izzy was getting frustrated in this episode, though. I loved her ranting. She ranted at least 2 or 3 times about Jag and Jess during this round. And then, of course, when they get to the wheelbarrows, when they have to go get the salt, they see that Jack and Chelsea are running past the wheelbarrows, so they don't tell them that. So Jack and Chelsea had to go back for the wheelbarrows. So that was cunning of them. But then they started messing up, taking the salt back. The wheelbarrow fell over. Izzy got frustrated and was venting and kicked the wheelbarrow anyway. But they still finished the salt bags on the first go. But yeah, I enjoyed Izzy, even in her frustration. She's the most entertaining person on this season. I'm glad they didn't get last place, because Paige did get lost driving at the end. They went the complete wrong direction to get to the final finish line for the round, but thankfully didn't get last place. I am wondering, because everybody kept saying that the thing was saying that if you are the last team, you might get eliminated. I like to think that the production was leaving that up to the possibility that if Izzy and Paige got last place, they weren't going to be eliminated. There was going to be no elimination this round, because they know that Izzy and Paige are keeping the season alive, where the entertainment is. They're smarter than the Big Brother producers, if that's what they were thinking. However, if that were to happen, then Izzy and Paige, or at least Izzy, can't have that same argument against Jag, that, he was eliminated from Big Brother and then he won. Because if they were supposed to be eliminated and weren't, then, have to be real that they're not necessarily great winners either. I don't see Izzy and Paige winning this season regardless, though. I don't really know if they'll last 2 more rounds. I hope so, because they are keeping the season alive for me. The team that went home this round was Rubina and Christine. We got their backstory, which made me think they're probably going home this episode. They were talking about how they were not close growing up, how their mom was in hospice for 10 years because of a brain aneurysm, but how they grew up watching The Amazing Race with their mom. Rubina lost her glasses, her actual prescription glasses, when they were getting the oysters in the water, fell into the water. So if they would have survived this round, I don't know how Rubina was going to continue on without being able to see. But what stood out the most is that when they lost, and when asked who they want to win the season, Rubina did not say her boyfriend Tucker. She chose Izzy and Paige, which I understand, because most of us are probably rooting for Izzy and Paige, I would like to think. Anyone with taste is rooting for Izzy and Paige to win the season. So they have good taste here. But Rubina not choosing her boyfriend is weird. And once again, I very much understand why Rubina and Tucker broke up. Tucker not even annoyed in the slightest that Joseph and Adam U-turned his girlfriend. And then Rubina is choosing someone other than Tucker that she wants to win the game. And yeah, Izzy and Paige are underdogs, but it's very odd. So no surprise to me that Tucker and Rubina broke up soon after this. They don't really seem to care about each other that much. And, we have this train wreck alliance going on. You would think that the boyfriend-girlfriend on the show would have this alliance going on, but it doesn't seem like it. So, yeah. The best thing I could say for this episode is that Izzy and Paige did not go home. It was an extremely boring episode, though. And I still contend that The Amazing Race in general, not to piss off the actual Amazing Race fans, but it's just not the most entertaining show on television. It only works on the episodes where the challenges are very interesting, and these challenges were not at all interesting to me this go round. So that's how I feel. But I'm still trucking on. When Izzy and Paige go home, and I do think it's inevitable in the next 2 weeks at least, it's going to be a hard watch, but I'm going to try my best to survive till the end of this season and see who wins between the top two teams, because I do think one of those two teams probably win the season.